Elbow Grease Productions, in association with MichaelJacksonInsider.com, presents
a doctor is supposed to keep medical logs about, what you're giving your patient, at what time you're giving your patient, but Dr. Murray did not turn over any of Michael Jackson's medical records to UCLA, to the coroner, or to the police. So where are those missing medical records, or did Dr. Murray just not keep any? Now, Dr. Cooper, who was the UCLA emergency doctor, there was some talk about the death certificate, and she said that she didn't ask Dr. Murray to sign the death certificate. She said that she would take care of it, and she is the one that ordered an autopsy because she didn't understand why a 50-year-old man was dead. There were no wounds, no puncture wounds. He looked fine, so she's the one that ordered the autopsy. And remember all the talk about Michael Jackson's brain. Remember, they didn't want to bury Michael Jackson until his brain was put back, and so they waited 71 days for all you numerologists to bury Michael Jackson. There was no cause of death even weeks after Michael Jackson or the announcement that Michael Jackson died, because they wanted to test the brain for length of time that Michael used drugs and for what type of drugs. But here at the preliminary hearing, absolutely no mention of the brain or testing of the brain, nothing. There was a doctor before Dr. Conrad Murray by the name of Dr. Adams, and allegedly he was the one that was giving Michael Jackson propofol beforehand. I don't know if that's true, but that was mentioned, that could be a possibility, and that Dr. Murray had given Michael Jackson propofol once in Dr. Murray's office. Now, Michael Amir is the one that hired Dr. Murray on the request of Michael Jackson. Now, Dr. Murray says in his police statement that he didn't know that he was being hired to give Michael Jackson propofol. He found that out after he was already treating the superstar. Michael had reported to Dr. Murray that the other doctors allowed him to push it in. And Dr. Murray had said, no, you won't be able to push it in with me, which is push in his medicines. So that was kind of a little strange, which kind of went to the fact that Dr. Murray wasn't the first person to inject Michael medicine. And it was a regular occurrence for Michael Jackson to have medicine injected into his system. Now, Ed Winter, we all saw a lot of Assistant Coroner Ed Winter in the days and months following the death of Michael Jackson. But it was weird to me that Ed Winter did not testify at this preliminary hearing. Instead, he sent another investigator, Lisa Fleek, which I talked about in the commentary for last week. Also, Flanagan, which is a defense attorney, told me personally that the doctor with that long name was going to testify, and he did not testify. Now, the defense did not call any of their own witnesses, like I said, so I don't think the defense really put their best foot forward in order to make sure that their client doesn't go to trial. At the end, the judge was speaking, and the judge asked the defense team, do you want to put a motion to dismiss? And it seemed like one of the attorneys, his last name was Lowe, hemmed and hawed and hemmed, so I didn't understand what was the point of that. Did they plan on this going to trial and they're going to pull out all their secret weapons at that particular time? But you would think the time to pull out your secret weapons is to save your client at the preliminary hearing so he can move back to his life. But they chose not to do that. Another cardiologist by the name of Dr. Rogers, he testified, and he said that Michael's overall general health was excellent. He said there was some inflammation of the pancreas, there was some arthritis in the spine, there were a couple of other ailments that Michael had, and of course he mentioned vitiligo. He said, but for a 50-year-old man, Michael Jackson's health was excellent. He's the one that classified the death of Michael Jackson a homicide. Now, that's important, because how do you say that it's not an accident, it wasn't an accidental overdose, it wasn't self-injected? Homicide just means that somebody died at the hands of another. So the defense tried to argue and say, but if Michael Jackson drank it or injected himself, then Dr. Murray did not kill him, and Dr. Murray may be at fault for not being able to resuscitate Michael Jackson, but he is not the one that injected Michael Jackson anything that would have killed him. And I thought that that was kind of a decent strategy, but apparently it didn't work too well. Now, another expert, he's also a medical doctor, he's a professor, he's an expert, and he testified about Michael Jackson. He also wrote a report after he reviewed all the evidence, Dr. Murray's chronology, the police report, the investigator's report, the toxicology report, the autopsy report, and he also said that there was an extreme departure of standard of care. And he explained all the failures of Dr. Murray in trying to save the life or care for his patient, who we believe is Michael Jackson. He said that there was no ACLS medicine, which is kind of an antagonist is the word he used, kind of like a venom. If there's a poison put in there or a medicine turns into poison, there's supposed to be anti-venom, but he called it an antagonist medicine. That's ACL medicine. He said there was no EKG machine, there was no capnograph, there was no stethoscope, which we see doctors with stethoscopes all the time. There was no proper ventilation. Dr. Murray failed to resuscitate his patient, and he said all those things led up to a failure, an extreme departure for standard of care. And no matter if Michael Jackson ingested himself, he drank it, because if Dr. Murray knew Michael was an addict, which he says he admits that Michael was getting addicted, you don't leave any types of medicines inside near a patient, especially if you think they're an addict. If you've ever been to the hospital, seen someone, when a nurse or a doctor comes in to give medicine, they just bring the exact dose in and then they take everything with them. So Dr. Murray, if he left propofol next to Michael Jackson, who he says is an addict, he said that Dr. Ruffalo said it's like leaving a heroin needle, a hypodermic needle with heroin in it, with a heroin addict. You do not do that. So no matter how it was ingested, the doctor was still 100% responsible for the life of their patient. He said there was all these failures to call 911, failure to open the proper breathing canal for Michael, which is a jaw lift, which Dr. Murray did not mention to the police that he did a jaw lift. Failure to do CPR. He said the one-arm CPR was useless, that he should have put him on the bed, and if he had no one to help him put him on the bed, it would have been better for a patient to have a couple of butt bruises than to be dead. So you go ahead and you put him on the floor any way you can, because he can survive from bruises, but he can't survive from not breathing. So all these failures, failure to inform other hospital or the paramedics and the UCLA doctors about the propofol. So in all this, it adds up to homicide. And I have to give some personal commentary here, because if this is true, Dr. Murray has 14 years of study after high school. He's highly educated in the field of medicine. Dr. Murray was a cardiologist for 21 years. And it's hard for me to believe that a doctor at this level is this incompetent, that could really make these types of mistakes. After hearing all the testimony, and on the 6th day of the preliminary hearing, the judge did make an immediate decision, and the decision was that Dr. Murray will stand trial. The motion to dismiss was denied. Dr. Murray's bail will stay put. It will not be raised to $300,000, and that Dr. Murray will lose his license, his ability to practice in California, and he has 24 hours to inform all medical boards, including the medical board in Texas and in Nevada. The judge was very stern with his ruling. He said the level of incompetence and ignorance was evil. And if all this is true, I would have to agree it's absolute evil for a doctor or someone saying they're doctor or playing doctor to have this much incompetence, to where I could have done a better job trying to resuscitate Michael Jackson than a well-trained cardiologist. There were a couple of more people that I expected to appear at the preliminary hearing. Remember LaQuisha and LaQuanda? You know, the two girls that worked at Dr. Murray's office that supposedly went to a storage unit, where there was no mention of a storage unit and no mention of LaQuisha and LaQuanda, and I just love those names. The judge also set an arraignment for January 25th in Department 107 at 8:30 a.m., and I will try my best to make it there. Many fans have emailed me, and they had left great comments, and I'd like to thank all the fans and everybody for listening to my long commentary. But One of the good questions, they said Dr. Murray could not save Michael Jackson's life or resuscitate Michael Jackson, but we know that he saved a girl on an airplane by putting an IV in her. And also he saved another man's life by being on the phone and telling him he was having a heart attack. But he has these kind of abilities, but he had no ability to save the most famous, beloved person in the world right on the pretty much the week before his big comeback. Geraldine Hughes will be making a statement as well, and it's from a very important Jackson family member. I can't tell you whom, but we will be recording that statement and bringing it to you here on MichaelJacksonInsider.com. Now, there are more Pseudocide clues coming, and I can't tell you too much about them, but Pseudocide, I need to say this because I wrote the book Pseudocide, Did Michael Jackson Fake His Death to Save His Life? And I wanted to hear every word of testimony in the preliminary hearing. And one of the things that I looked for the most was confirmation that the body was Michael Jackson's body. And there was no confirmation. There's no FBI fingerprint match. There's no DNA match. They didn't bring up anything. It was just the assumption. And I would say it's a good assumption that it was the body of Michael Jackson's. But we have to remember, Michael said the illusion starts tomorrow. And we have to remember all the death hoax clues. As I sat and I listened to every word in the preliminary hearing, I was beginning to doubt all the clues. I was beginning to think it was a figment of my imagination until I come home and I review. Now, this will be the first time that I'm publicly saying this. We have signed a worldwide distribution deal for a new documentary called Alive, Is Michael Jackson Really Dead? We decided to produce this documentary so that the public at large, the worldwide public at large, will know the facts of why people believe that Michael Jackson is not dead. I mean, it's so many. It starts way back December 25th, 2008. So who set up the story? Who's playing games? And sitting there listening to the testimony, you're sure that Michael Jackson's dead, but then when you come back and you review all these clues that still exist, you have doubt again. So what I've decided to do, because a lot of fans have been emailing me saying, Pearl, I'm not sure about the death hoax anymore. I'm beginning to believe that Michael Jackson is dead. So what I've decided to do, and believe me, I'm in this with all you fans who believe it, and I don't want my heart to be broken. I don't want to be responsible for breaking a lot of people's hearts. But Michael wrote to us, see you in July 2011. And that picture was photographed and it was copywritten on my birthday, May 6th, and that's why I remember it so well. So Michael said, see you July 2011, and to take a quote from Michael's dear friend Jesse Jackson, keep hope alive. Thousands believed Tupac did it. Millions believed Elvis did it. But did Michael Jackson really do it? E-movie book, Pseudocide, Did Michael Jackson Fake His Death to Save His Life? By author Pearl Jr. It's the most shocking true story of our lifetime. Order yours today. Go to MichaelJacksonPseudocide.com. That's MichaelJacksonPseudocide.com.
Elbow Grease Productions, in association with MichaelJacksonInsider.com, presents
a doctor is supposed to keep medical logs about ordered an autopsy because she didn't understand why a 50-year-old man was dead. There were no wounds, no puncture wounds. He looked fine, so she's the one that ordered the autopsy. And remember all the talk about Michael Jackson's brain. Remember, they didn't want to bury Michael Jackson until his brain was put back, and so they waited 71 days for all you numerologists to bury Michael Jackson. There was no cause of death even weeks after Michael Michael Jackson or the announcement that Michael Jackson died because they wanted to test the brain for length of time that Michael used drugs and for what type of drugs. But here at the preliminary hearing, absolutely no mention of the brain or testing of the brain, nothing. There was a doctor before Dr. Conrad Murray by the name of Dr. Adams. And allegedly, he was the one that was giving Michael Jackson propofol beforehand. I don't know if that's true, but that was mentioned, that that could be a possibility. And that Dr. Murray had given Michael Jackson propofol, what you're giving your patient, at what time you're giving your patient. But Dr. Murray did not turn over any of Michael Jackson's medical records to UCLA, to the coroner, or to the police. So where are those missing medical records, or did Dr. Murray just not keep any? Now, Dr. Cooper, who was the UCLA emergency doctor, there was some talk about the death certificate, and she said that she didn't ask Dr. Murray to sign the death certificate. She said that she would take care of it, and she is the one that propofol once in Dr. Murray's office. Now, Michael Amir is the one that hired Dr. Murray on the request of Michael Jackson. Now, Dr. Murray says in his police statement that he didn't know that he was being hired to give Michael Jackson propofol. He found that out after he was already treating the superstar. Michael had reported to Dr. Murray that other doctors allowed him to push it in. And Dr. Murray had said, no, you won't be able to push it in with me.